So, well, I'm going to start because it is 8:01, and if we're going to start at 8:01 and finish at 8:43, this is the time to go. So, welcome everybody. We had a few folks, we were sitting around and thinking about different things we could do at the Lilly conferences as we're planning for upcoming events. We thought it'd be kind of neat if we could just do some, sharing of information and different people that we talk to and just have these conversations. So we figured out what to call it. We thought, well, we all have to, do social distancing, but we don't have to do it apart. We can social distance while we're together. So this is distancing together. The concept was having it in the evening so that people who have very small children, maybe their children are put to bed, and that's what Kathryn does there. It's also done at a time when classes that are done, the systems that have the brilliance to decide that everything needs to be synchronous, those folks could have a chance to chat in the evenings if they'd like to. But also if an individual just wanted to grab a beverage, a person can have a beverage and participate. I've got my jug full of water here. But I'll have a wine waiting for me at home. So we've got this. So I want to first of all just welcome everybody who's logging in. We're having a great response. We're doing these basically as kind of almost pop-ups. We did the first two, then we're going to start doing them on Thursday evenings so people just know what to expect. But for having about a 36-hour notice, we're just fascinated, and we think it's so fabulous that so many people are joining. So thank you for joining and participating. There'll be multiple people who had told me that they wanted the recording. So I want to say welcome to everybody who's watching this as a recording. Feels a little strange to welcome somebody who's not here yet, but a future participant. I appreciate that. So I'm going to get right to it because we actually only have 41 minutes left. And today we have Kathryn Smith, who is our Director of Learning Technologies and Assessment, working with the Lilly conferences. We were chatting about some things, and when we put the big marketing list out, which is just so everybody kind of knows what's coming up, it's kind of a newsletter with a teaching tip. She did such a great teaching tip on screen captures. I said, it'd be kind of fun just to play around with that. So before I kick it off, again, down at the bottom of your screen, there's a chat. We're using chat, right?
No, Q&A.
Q&A. Oh, there's the Q&A button. If you do have questions, go ahead and type or click on the Q&A and type in the questions, and hopefully Kathryn or I will see it pretty quickly and we can respond to it. But I'm just going to pass it off to you, Kathryn. And
yeah, definitely. Sorry, you always try to turn things off on your computer, and as it gets going, of course, that's what happens. Yeah, so I have an invested interest in technology and instructional technology. That's what my master's is in, and I've enjoyed it. So bringing that to other faculty members is something that I enjoy doing. And so that teaching tip definitely was there for some of the faculty members that I have worked with previously, and just to get people started in this weird world we're currently in. So we are looking at different technologies that you can use for screen capturing, depending on where you are in your teaching or how you want to use them. I know Todd and I were talking about how, like, where would this go, or where would you put this into your teaching?
Where do you use this stuff?
What do you do with it? So you have a couple different places that you can put these in or use it. It definitely, if you want to do something set up for your class that is, if you're doing it asynchronously and you want your students to watch something prior to maybe a synchronous event or something to have them talk about, that's one way to do it. You could do this as students, as an assignment for them. You can do it, I think a lot of our faculty, when I was working with them, would use it for maybe like a flipped classroom or like a TBL, like preparing for that TBL. So team-based learning, sorry, not everybody knows all the different acronyms. I always forget that some people are still new to the game too. And when I was in that and people would say acronyms, I would be like, and they'd finally see the look on my face, or like look on my face, so that I have to remember to go back. And I also need to remember when we are doing things that are recorded, good note to self, one of the tips is slow your voice down. I'm so excited. I love sharing these things. So I just need to like take a breath and slow it down. So,
Good.
yeah, so those are a couple places we can use it. Todd, any other thoughts about where
No,
we?
I was just going to ask. So, what you're talking about, like for instance, and I'm trying to figure out some of these too. So, for sharing of information, obviously, I can go to, and it depends on what you have available. If you already have
Right.
Zoom, I suppose you could always do a Zoom with a screen share and do that as a capture. But if you don't have it, if I'm teaching a stats class and I want to show formulas and I can go onto a computer and pull that together, or a web search or something, it allows me to capture all that information, package it into a video, and share it with the students.
Yeah.
And you know, there's a lot of different products out there. We're going to play around with a couple of these, but if you do have group projects with your students, they could be working on something and their final project could be done and you could capture it. And one thing I'm really aiming for these days is to really think seriously about what types of things are helpful for online teaching, because we're all in that situation now. You know, it's not something we ask for, but it's where we're at. But in the future, when we're back face-to-face in the classrooms, I'm really interested in the types of things that I can use as a face-to-face instructor or as an online instructor. And so I think some of the things that Kathryn had come up with for tonight are you can use them in almost any classroom environment.
Right. I think a lot of the things that we're learning now in in this time can be used moving forward, which is kind of fun that we'll be able to use this as like a blend of like, what did we figure out that in this online teaching is the best? And sorry, my daughter just walked in to say goodnight. Hard to ignore that distraction. So you can use that blend of like where are the good things that we've learned from this online teaching experience, and what can we take into the face-to-face and make a better experience for our students in the future. And you know, some of the things that I've seen, CNN posted the other day that some schools like Brown and such are looking to stay online until January. So for the rest of the semester. So what are some of the things that we can do, and we can start planning now? And as this semester is kind of ending, and like, what can we do moving forward through the summer when maybe we do have a break, or things that we can, when we do have the time to invest into making some of these resources available for our students.
Yeah,
so
all right, now before you take off and show us the first one, or talk about that first one there, I just want to mention I was watching the screen here. We've had a whole bunch of people join the last like 2 or 3 minutes. So just for people who just joined, first of all, welcome. And then down at the bottom, please use the Q&A button. If you have a question, by all means, just type a question and we'll get your response as quick as we can.
Yeah.
So off to the races. What's your first? I'm a faculty member, you know, I'm sitting around sipping my water thinking, I would love to be able to capture this great way of showing students how to do something on my computer and package it up and send them to them, but I'm not sure which screen sharing kind of tool to use.
All right, I see one of the questions that came in we are talking about, are there free resources that we'd recommend? Since most of them are apps that are giving like a free trial or things like that. So a little bit of my background too. I formerly was an elementary school teacher, so we had no funding. So I look for all the free things. So I will try and share as many free things as possible. Or when I look at things, I always look at it like, okay, if I like this product, am I going to spend my own money on this product to invest in my students and that kind of thing in my teaching? So yeah, I like to find things that are bang for your buck and good value. So well, hopefully
that's the one thing I always liked about Kathryn, is that because you were a primary school teacher for several years, is as we go through these things, I look through the notes that she had, and for Kathryn, I love to see the things like she'll say, well, this one's really expensive. It's $100 for the whole year. So she's very, very cost conscious. So.
All right. So one of the first ones that kind of comes up the most when we look at different screen shares or screen recordings is Screencast-O-Matic. And the other thing I want to talk about too is that a lot of these are either, when they first came out, they were either PC based or Mac based. So now a lot of them are moving over to have features for all of them, for all of the different operating systems. So Screencast-O-Matic, which is the first one that I'm going to share about, is for Chromebook. So people that are Chromebook schools, I know K-12 has gone that way. So if this is one that you want your students to record something to turn in as an assignment, this is a good one for students because the free version of it, and it's always going to be free, is enough for what you would need your students to do. Then there are the additional features. So this was kind of like a freemium is what they call them. The free version is fine, but if you want to have more features or access or things like that, you pay the premium for it. So the basic, just capture any area of your screen, add narration from your microphone and video from your webcam, that's always going to be free. But if you want to upgrade, it's about $20 a year for the Deluxe. I forget, it was like a breakdown, so I rounded. It's less than $20. It's like $18.40 for the year if you get the Deluxe. And the Deluxe video is like, it does an easy editor. You do the same thing as the recording, the computer audio. You can import narration though. So if you'd already narrated something, you can set it to that. And music. So if you had, I know some of the ways that faculty would get some students' attention is to start off with some different music to set the tone, so that if you want that, you have to move into that Deluxe version. The other thing that you can do is have draw and zoom and use a screenshot. The cool thing about this one, so thinking about all of your students and having your students all have access, this one will allow you to create captions with a speech to text. So that kind of helps with your ADA and making sure that you've got those captions there for students if they need them. And it has the green screen. So I know that's something that you enjoy, Todd.
I do like the green screen.
So once you upgrade to that version, then you can do that. So there you go. Thanks for taking us to your library.
That's it. The only reason I don't use this one, I'm sorry, can I interrupt you there?
Go ahead.
Because everybody leans in really close and tries to read the titles, and so very distracting. So go right ahead.
One of the fun things, since we went off onto that topic, you can download different Zoom backgrounds right now. They're putting them out there, and I really seriously thought about doing a Disney one because they put out free ones from Disney. Anyhow, going back to Screencast-O-Matic, so if you move, so that's like $20 for the entire year. I think they bill you monthly, and it's just under $2 to get billed monthly for that. Then the upgraded version of Screencast-O-Matic is the premium, so you get all the Deluxe features. I feel like I'm trying to sell it for them. But you get to have transfer from your iPhone or iPad to edit videos, a secure backup. They have a branded ad-free site, where you can have all of your videos hosted. And then there's advanced sharing and collaboration. So then you can also have a playlist of videos too.
Nice.
So kind of if you start making them, it's kind of a YouTube-ish screen for all your different videos of a playlist. So that one's pretty cool. I like that. Yes, Screencast-O-Matic, that is it.
And by the way, I'm just going to say real quickly, Kathryn and I did chat a little bit about this too. And the only reason we're not showing you how these things work or what they look like is we wanted to run through quite a few of them. We'll have a list for anybody who wants it at the end with kind of pros and cons. But the big issue is that we are spending 3 minutes each. And as soon as you bring it up and share the desktop and start showing it, there really isn't time. So jot down the names and we'll have the list for you at the end too.
The other thing I wanted to take a pause too, I want to recognize, so another option that faculty members have is if you have a lecture capture system, you might have a screen recording system available within that. So you need to check with your IT department I know when I worked at the university, we had Echo 360, and then we moved into Panopto, and each of those had their own personal capture that they could put the software on your screen, and then it would integrate into however those get recorded. So then for those kinds of recordings, like that screen kind of capture, you could capture your PowerPoints, you could capture all the different things. But those are a whole nother can of worms to get into. But I just wanted to make sure if your school does have that as an option, go ahead and check into those with your IT department too, because that is definitely an option. So.
All right. Okay, screencast.
Screencast-O-Matic. I feel like.
Sorry, got stuck on that one. So that's great. All right, so what do we got next?
All right, so one of the other ones that I think is actually really helpful is good old PowerPoint. Everybody has PowerPoint. And it's not necessarily a screen capture. So like if you're drawing things on your screen, or if you are wanting to see your cursor as much, PowerPoint isn't the best for that. They were moving into kind of an option, but it didn't really come to fruition. You can actually record. So if you wanted just to make a video of your PowerPoint and set your audio to it, and you can do all your animations as you click things in, you can just record that and then export it as an MP4 at the end, and that video can be loaded to your learning management system as well. So don't forget about PowerPoint.
Right, so PowerPoint though, so what you're really working with is you load all the material, and does it animate between the slides?
However, whatever animations you have set up,
I got you.
And like as you're talking, so like one of the nice things is as you talk, and if you were to deliver your content in the lecture hall or in your classroom or that kind of thing, and you can click and do your different animations as you would as you're talking, you just do the same thing, but just record your audio to go with it. So a lot of the faculty members that I would work with, that was kind of the way to get their toes wet.
Okay.
And they would start to do it just to record and start to understand that, like, okay, everything can be recorded as a video, and then my students can consume this on their own time. So that was a way that they just started to figure it out. And then once they got into it and wanted to, especially when in working in the medical school, they needed to draw things, they needed to show pathways and how things connected. And that's where we would move into other different options for them, so that they could have their screen and their cursor and all that kind of things animate for students as they're talking, like kind of Khan Academy style.
No, I like that a lot. And then Valerie just asked, what about if you don't record over every slide? Does it just, I guess it would just pass through that slide, right? It'd show the slide and then you'd move on?
Right.
Okay.
Or you could set the time for that slide. So if it was something that you just wanted the students to read, you could just set it for 5-10 seconds. Or one of the things you could do too, if you didn't actually record audio on each one and the students need more time just at the beginning, one of the good things to do is remind them, hey, this is a video. You can pause and
I didn't think of that.
Rewind. It's kind of funny, the things that you don't think about. That is one of the nice things about a video, is that they can pause, they can re-listen to the things that they didn't understand. Yes. There also is, I know working at the medical school as well, our med students would enjoy listening to everybody at chipmunk speed. So when you do record things, consider if your students do like to listen to you at 1.5 or double time, because
I think 1.7 is the big one. 1.7 is the popular.
1.7. Okay, got it. So like if you don't give them that variable speed, they might get a little upset with you, but at least they have something to listen to.
I've often thought it'd be very handy on those types of situations to like change the pacing of your voice, so that whenever they're listening, you have to be really careful and they can't just leave it at one speed. So I could do that. Hey, and by the way, Anonymous just typed in, we have an anonymous attendee. Cool. In considering which app to use, data usage. Just a question about data usage, because there are students who are on self plans, maybe not quick speed and stuff. So do you happen to know which of these are like more gobblers of data than others? It seems to me that PowerPoint can become a pretty big file in a hurry, right?
It can. It totally can. And also, it depends on how long your video is. So if you give it to him in shorter chunks too, so maybe not recording an entire hour lecture or an entire 45-minute class, give it to them in smaller chunks, which, you know, also that helps with their learning too. If you give them those digestible units of information.
Yeah.
But the one that I would say that does export a smaller package size is Adobe Captivate. I have a love-hate relationship with Adobe Captivate. It is a very powerful and great software, but if you've ever tried to use any Adobe software, you kind of have to be like knowledgeable. It's not for somebody who's just going to try and pick it up and try and make something. Adobe Captivate is amazing because you can add questions. You can do, like, they just released a huge feature list of all of the things that they updated for the 2019 version. And they hadn't updated since 2017. So it was like a 2-year update of like tons of features. And it's such a powerful thing, but all their little screens, and you have to know like keystrokes and all kinds of stuff to get it done. It's hard, but they know what they're doing. Yeah.
So before we move on though, I think you brought up a really good point. And what Anonymous is asking, which I really like, is being mindful of the students' side of all of this. And so
right.
You know, we might have great internet and we package something that looks great to us and we send it off. But quite frankly, it's just like when we do PowerPoints. I did a presentation one time and I was just building a PowerPoint with these wonderful images. And I just loved them. But all the images were high res, big images. That's why they showed up great on the screen. And I got ready to send it to the person. And I had created I think it was a 40-minute presentation. There was something like 75 megs. And so wow. I went back and started to change the images that I put in there and everything else. And so I do think on our side, I have to be mindful of what am I building. And so I like the fact that what you were talking about is be careful of the length. If there's going to be something that you're putting together to send out to people and there's, you know, like, oh, I just want to welcome everybody and make sure that you're okay. And we want to do that, make sure our students are at least acknowledge that we understand they're going through things. But if I spend a lot of time doing that and then get into the lesson that I'm doing and make that fairly long, I create, you know, a couple 100 meg file and then it's hard for them to open. So I like the idea of short, concise things where you say things quickly, you get your point across and move on. So.
Yes, but remember, we don't talk fast.
That's right.
All the good things about screen recording and recording audio for them.
Right, we don't have to, I mean, again, you're right. We don't have to talk really, really fast to do it. It's the concept of, here's the issue. Here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I think you should do. And we're done. So yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of which.
Well, so we talked about Adobe Captivate. So let me finish that little chunk of that guy.
Sure.
It is expensive in terms of buying a license for yourself. It's $3.99 for a license of the software.
Is that for each year?
It's that version is perpetual. So if you buy that, you have that version of the software. If you want updates, I think you have to buy a maintenance package for them, and I don't know how much that is. They do have an option of a month-to-month, which is $33.99 a month, but you have to sign up for at least a year contract. So you're not getting out of it that way.
And I should mention before, and I think you may have said it before, I was looking at questions too, but before anybody buys anything, it's always a good idea to find out who handles the technology on your campus, make sure it's supported, but also make sure that there isn't a site license for some of these things.
Right.
These organizations are awful. And I'll tell you, I've been working in higher education for a long, long time. It makes me so angry when I pick up a site license for something for my department or myself, and then find out that the campus had a campus-wide site license. Oftentimes the organizations won't say, you don't need to pay. So It's just always good to check in.
Yeah, I I would check our software acquisition. So we actually, our university, when I was there, had a site license, and it was pretty inexpensive at that point when I was using it. I think it was like $120 for our site license for when we were doing it. But this is the education pricing. So you do need, if you're going to do education pricing, then you do need a .edu email address to get pretty much any of these education pricing things. The interface and in Adobe Captivate, though, it's pretty frustrating if you don't use it. It's not very intuitive for somebody just to pick up, but you end up with an amazing screencast. So depends on what you want to do there. The one that I would also just throw in there, I'm not going to spend much time on, if you're looking to make like screencasts and something that looks very professional, the other one to look at is Articulate and Articulate Storyline. And that one is, that one's a great one if you want to make kind of like modules or packets and things like that for students. That one includes questions too. So if you're looking more of like a module making kind of software, I definitely check out Storyline. That one's expensive as well, but definitely worth it. Very powerful. We did get a comment too from Kelly about security issues. Yeah, that is something to consider, especially when you're downloading software. If your campus and your IT department requires certain security on different softwares. So definitely check with your IT department if you can download these softwares, or if your videos can be uploaded. It is very school specific. I know things are very different at every university, every K-12. Everybody has their own set of rules. So definitely check with them. Okay, so if you have the other one that I like too, there's two that I'm going to kind of talk about right now that I really enjoy. Being a former teacher or elementary school teacher, I have an iPad. I think a lot of people in this now have iPads, and I got the Apple Pencil and everything. My husband was so kind and got that for me for Christmas. And so I love playing with all of that. And to have a never-ending whiteboard was absolutely amazing. So one of the other, there's two really like competing iPad softwares, or apps, I guess. They're not technically software, they're apps. The first one is the ShowMe. If you look it up, just type in ShowMe iPad app. If you buy the iPad app, you have basic access. If you want to have the premium features where you can do a lot more with it, that's $9.99 a month or $89.99 a year, and they're auto renewing. And that, if you do the premium features, it allows you to do upload 300 hours of your ShowMe, and you can post them privately. It allows your students to make study groups. There's all kinds of great things that it can do. You can mark up and share documents. You can import the documents in, have different things from the web. So it's like a never-ending whiteboard. So if you wanted to draw and you wanted to, like for people that are, especially like in the medical field, and you have things like that, that you need to show the different pathways, or sciences, and for that matter anyway, or math, and you want to do all the different formulas and equations and all that kind of stuff, having a never-ending whiteboard that you can draw and show, like the Khan Academy style, that's what you get here. That one's the ShowMe app.
And how much is that? I'm sorry, I was answering a question there.
You're good. It's $9.99 a month or $89.99 a year.
Okay, so $90 a year. Okay.
Yep. So not too terrible. The other one that that one was the first one that got me started on the never-ending whiteboards, in the ShowMe app. But the other one that came to the scene was called Explain Everything.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. I like
That
it.
one. So that one is pretty cool too. And there's 2 different versions to this one. So that's where you have to kind of make your own decision. But I think the version, there's an explain everything version, and then there's an explain everything EDU version. And for some reason, the EDU version is a little bit more limited than the regular version.
Okay.
Don't know why. Yeah, and that you have to like you'll have to decide for yourself which one you like better, but the regular version you can collaborate. So if this is something that you wanted students to come together and make a presentation together, they could be working from their different iPads to collaborate and do so. They have it's also a never ending whiteboard basically, and you can upload or import your PowerPoints into it. It does the screencasting. You can annotate, animate, narrate. You can do all kinds of things. You can create slides, add shapes and text and videos. Your pointer can become a laser pointer. So as you're talking, you can circle and that kind of thing. It has editing software within it. You can play videos within your presentation, like your entire screencast. So explain everything. It has a lot of options and a lot of cool features that if you're using iPads or you want students to come together, that's a great one.
Excellent.
So
that's good. I got another quick question for you though before you move to the next one. James was asking about Adobe Captivate.
right.
Do you happen to recall if you can have this interactive feature in which students can physically engage in whatever's on the screen?
Yeah, so Captivate, you can add questions. It does like the whole multiple choice, and they can't move on until they get it right. You have that whole, those features are built in with that.
Gotcha. And do you see Kelly's question?
Yeah, so Captivate does that, and that's also, if you're going down that road, if you want to put questions in, that's where Articulate Storyline is great for that. Again, that one's like super expensive, but Storyline does great questions. That one's kind of like, you could even do like a choose your own adventure if you wanted, if you got like that into it, which I did for a little while, so it was a lot of fun. And there's the next one that I'll talk about. So put a pin in Adobe Captivate in the questions, because there's another screencasting one that allows you to do questions, and we'll talk about that in a second. But you asked about Kelly's question and said the Android PC versions of these tools. ShowMe is just an iPad app.
Okay.
Explain everything, you can do a web version of it if you do the regular. That's what I'm saying, like the regular version of Explain Everything has a lot more features than the EDU version, which is interesting to me, since it's like a never-ending whiteboard. So there are Explain Everything, I do believe, has now an Android version. But it does have the online, like you can do it within your browser.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily something that you download onto your computer. So you would have to be online for that. So that's another thing too. Like, so you have to consider some of these, if you're going totally remote and you don't have access to internet, like which ones, so what's better for your situation? Do you want something that is a software that's on your computer, or do you care if you're on the internet the entire time?
Right. Yeah, that's good. Okay, we're down to about 5 minutes or so.
Oh, okay.
That's not the response. The response is perfect, because we just have like 1 or 2 to go.
Come on, you know me. I could talk forever about these things, right?
He does love this stuff.
I do. All right, so the one that I want to talk about that also can do the questions is Camtasia. So That's the other one on our teaching tip. So the third, it's green little icon. And that one is for PC and Mac.
But right out of the gate, make sure you differentiate between Camtasia and Camtasia Studio, right?
Yeah. No,
so we won't run out of time. We want everybody to hear this one quickly.
Yeah, so it's Camtasia or Cam Studio. These people were they're clever. They so you want Camtasia. Take Cam Studio and draw an X through it, because it is nothing like Camtasia, and it's a PC only. It's not even worth talking about. So just don't do Cam Studio. Don't get that out of your brain. So do Camtasia. So Camtasia, it costs $169 per license. That's the educational pricing. And it's a one-time pricing. And if you want the new version, you have to pay that all over again. So there's no like maintenance fee or unless you buy the maintenance package, sorry. So if you buy the maintenance package, then you get like one more version, but you have to pay like $50. So if you like it and you want to upgrade again next year when they come out with a whole bunch of features, then buy the maintenance package. When you do purchase this software, along with, again, going back to Articulate Storyline, you can buy the software once and put it on 2 machines. So your product code works twice.
Okay.
So like if you had a home computer and you had a work computer, you could take that one license and put it on both machines.
Or your desktop and laptop, right?
Right. So however you want to do that, that's just something good to note that goes both places. It is PC and Mac. I don't think I'm pretty sure, actually, I don't want to say that. But it does have, so you're talking about the different features. So that one has the questions that you can do. And you can embed those questions throughout your video. That also just made me think of, I know, completely off topic, not really off topic, but using Edpuzzle.
Oh yeah, I love Edpuzzle.
That's a free online resource that if you have a video already made, it allows you to stop, or if you can find a video that's made. So there's actually one of Todd out there, and somebody his TED Talk. And if you have the video, you can go and put in questions. You can make stop points in it to make sure that the students understand certain topics or things like that, and doesn't let them go on until they acknowledge that. So edpuzzle.com, it's a great one. If you haven't heard of that one, that's definitely
Edpuzzle. That's one of my favorites, because you can search, I mean, anything that's on YouTube, basically anything that's out on the internet, and then you can voice over, you can write multiple choice questions, you can write open-ended questions. I mean, there's so much you can do with it. I love Edpuzzle.
One of the cool things, so one of the faculty members I worked with, we found actually drug company's video, because we were talking about like the blood clotting and things like that, and their video was gorgeous, and it was like on YouTube, and so we were able to use that video and ask questions throughout it because it was wonderfully animated, and then we didn't have to find some other way to communicate that to students. So great thing to put out there.
If you had time to like do one more, what would your favorite be?
The only other one that is probably super helpful is it's formerly Jing. But now it's TechSmith Capture. But if you Google Jing, it'll come up, Jing. That one is completely free, really simple. You can you can't record more than 5 minutes though. And it's just your screen. So, but if you want something that's free, you want to give it a shot and just try out just for a little bit, Jing might be your way to start.
Now, I just want to let you know, I just did the quick search here because I always try these things as we're talking about them. And when I type it in, the first thing that comes up is Jing free download, which is jing.en.softonic.com. But right below it is TechSmith Capture.
Yep,
So we want TechSmith Capture.
Yeah, you want TechSmith Capture. So it's formerly Jing, but it's called TechSmith Capture now.
And TechSmith package does have the Jing in parentheses there, so.
Just got a question. Okay, 8:41. We're gonna stop our content and we can field some questions now.
But any thoughts on the TechSmith's? Was this Snagit?
Snagit. So, it's similar to like a screen. TechSmith is it captures part of your screen, so it's very similar to these other ones that we were talking about. But TechSmith is like, I like their products. They're pretty good. They're pretty user friendly. I feel like I could talk my mom through them. Right. So if I can do that and I can explain to her how to make something, then I think somebody trying to pick it up and learn it on their own wouldn't have too much difficulty. So TechSmith products are pretty good.
Excellent.
Do you have any other questions or things that you
guys we got a minute left, so you can ask, if someone has a quick question, we can do another quick question with our last minute here. But I will say, I guess we should wrap anyway. Oh, there it is. Thank you for sharing. So yeah, thank you all for joining us on this webinar. And we thought maybe it's a little more informal a bit, but to get some things rolling. And Kathryn, do we have a list that we can post somewhere, or?
Yeah, so what I think I can end up doing is we can take this video and put it to our ITLC Lilly YouTube, and I can put the documents there too. We'll
list it there. And so everybody here will get an email with it'll just basically say, here's where you can find the video when they do get listed. So yeah, and they should be listed pretty quickly.
And if you have any questions, yeah, you can find us on the ITLCnetwork.org website. You can email Todd or you can email me. So it's Kathryn, Kathryn, at ITLCnetwork.org. And I'm happy to answer any of your questions if you guys have more. I do love this stuff. So it's like I get to nerd out a little bit and answer questions if you guys have more.
And if you can't catch Kathryn's or you forget for some reason, you can always email me, Todd Zakrajsek, and I have just toddzakrajsek@gmail.com because I'm the only Todd Zakrajsek in the world. So I didn't even have to fight for that one. So you can always remember it's just toddzakrajsek@gmail.com. Spelling is always an issue, but that's on you. Figure it out. So thank you all for coming and joining. Really appreciate this. Look forward to seeing, if you would like to join us next week. Next Thursday night, we'll have another person. We don't even know who it is yet. So if you've got a great idea, send me an email. You can nominate somebody and we'll, find that. But in the meantime, got several good options for people, and so I'm looking forward to it already. Oops, my kids said that I look evil when I do this, so I have to stop that. So thank you. Thank you for joining us. We're going to close it out for tonight. Hopefully we'll see you next week. All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.